since I don't know what it's going to do with cloud.
You're recording.
Yes, I am. All right. Well, good morning, and thank you for coming out for this very special training. And I'm really excited, actually, to be doing this with such a powerful little group that we've got here today coming together. And I'm hoping that you guys will give me a little bit of feedback along the way too, because I definitely consider this group to be not of the norm in terms of the groups that I hope to be teaching here in the not too distant future. And I need to hear from you guys in terms of what of some of the things I'm talking about is making sense to you in terms of a slightly different picture, a slightly bigger picture than what you might have thought of or considered before in this whole concept of not only living your song, but also engaging in the whole concept of network marketing as part of it. So this particular, I've got two versions of this class. One is more for people who are not currently engaged in network marketing, but with this group, I'm definitely going to be talking a lot about that. We'll definitely be talking about iWebAtool and how to really start working with that if you're not already. So this group will probably get a little bit different version of the whole thing than what may be put out there to some other folks at another time. So welcome, thank you for being here, and you know, let's jump in and see what we can do. Now, of course, the big thing is, will I be able to switch? Yes, I can switch the screen. Yay! Okay, so you know, I really want you guys to understand a little bit about some of the background that I came through over the last 25 years that have led to this class. And again, some of this I might not share with other classes, but I think you guys, I really want you to hear it because I want, again, some feedback. I have to admit that 25 years ago, when I was first introduced to the network marketing industry, I had a lot of mixed emotions around it. There was a part of me that absolutely loved the fact that it was an industry that had no limits, that it encouraged people to be who they wanted to be and to strive for the dreams that they had. But I also, at the time, I remember many, and again, this is about 25 years ago, Amway was actually the very first company that we were introduced to. It was very big in the Raleigh area about the time that we moved here. And it was really disheartening to me when somebody talked me into going, uh-oh, Henry's got a problem here. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello?
Is there a way I can get sound?
Well, I don't know why you can't hear me. No, everybody else can.
Well, I'm not getting any sound at all. I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Well, okay. Well, probably the best thing I can try to do, and I'm hoping I don't get a whole bunch of feedback, is I'll leave my phone here on the speaker, and you can hear me that way. Will that work?
Okay, that'd be fine.
All right. Yeah, it's important to get on these things as early as you can and make sure you got all the technical glitches ordered out, because they do happen.
I've been here early, but that's, you know, and I was waiting for you to come.
It's okay. It's all right, as long as you can hear me. And I'm gonna plug the phone in. And the rest of you, are you guys getting feedback of any kind? If I've got my phone on here for Henry?
No, it's good, Shan.
All right. Well, hopefully that'll continue to work okay. And hopefully now I don't end up getting something from Rick going, help! But anyway, back to my story. So 25 years ago with Amway was the first company that my husband and I got exposed to here. And it was really disheartening when we got talked into going to a convention. And probably 80% of the convention was people parading across the stage, showing us pictures of big houses and boats and fancy cars and all this kind of stuff. And I got really emotional about that from the perspective of, that it bothered me that that seemed to be all that anybody cared about. And it was really kind of difficult for me. I was like, okay, is this all that there is to talk about in this industry? Is how big of a house you can get, how many cars you can own. And so I had some real challenges with the industry very early on because of that. And you know, I knew that there was more to it. I knew there was more that should be done with it, but I never really heard it from them. And so it was difficult. After that, a lot of my personal experiences in the industry ended up being more because I was impressed with a product than it was about the whole idea of team building. And for a lot of people, you know, I've attracted a lot of people who are in that same space. It's like, okay, if this is a really cool product and I can see what it does for me, I'm in, I want to be part of it. I want to be able to sell these products, which is totally cool. I mean, it's a good thing. There's a lot of products in the network marketing industry that you cannot get anywhere else. And so for me, that became the focus, and it's been the focus for a very long time. Many of you know that I am still involved with Legal Shield, and we've been with them for 15 years, and we love those products. I still sell those products, but I never got to a place of feeling comfortable with actually working on building a team there. And a lot of it was timing on my part, I got to admit that. But there's definitely was some issues that I had with some of the ways they were training people in the industry, because that was another part that bothered me. There was too much hype. There was too much, and this is just my personal perspective, and other people who've been in the industry, they may look at it very differently. They may feel very differently about it than what I'm describing. I'm just trying to help you understand the perspectives and some of the struggles that I've been through with the industry. So the hype was driving me crazy, because it's like, you can hype anybody up for the short term, but once they walk away from it, it fades pretty quickly. And after that, where's the motivation to keep going? Where's the motivation to do something that allows you to actually build something? So that bothered me a lot. And it also bothered me when we would see people in our local marketplace doing what I called the Walmart tackle. Don and I have laughed about this many, many times, because there's still teams here in Raleigh with Legal Shield who do this. We used to live in an area on the east side of Raleigh, and there was a Walmart there that we would visit from time to time. And as we're going through that, you know, we always would get tackled by somebody in the parking lot who was trying to recruit us into Legal Shield. And to me, that just didn't seem very professional. It just didn't seem like the kind of sales and marketing that I wanted to be involved in. It felt more like walking into a used car lot and dealing with a used car salesperson. And to me, that didn't feel good. So it was really kind of interesting to me that I have felt compelled for 25 years to find ways to do the industry differently. Yes, the other thing that always really bothered me about the industry, it's the most fair way to build business, from my perspective, that anybody could ever think about. Because basically the whole idea of the network marketing industry, when you really boil it down and understand it at its core, is that as you help other people succeed, you succeed. It is clearly the most pure form of performance pay that you can ever develop. And isn't that what we've talked about in NeoThing? Performance pay is absolutely where it's at. So with network marketing, you get performance pay for selling product, but you also get performance pay for mentoring, coaching, and leading other people. And it's a totally fair system in that way. You get paid in accordance to the results you produce. And yes, there's many different kinds of compensation plans out there, but just the fact that it is that very fair kind of system, and it totally goes along with whatever you put out, you're going to receive. So in that way, the industry always held a lot of promise to me. But again, there was too much of the hype, too much of the other things that bothered me. And here was the other part that bothered me, was there were too many people in the industry who they're just looking for the people who've already got a bunch of money to spend. And to me, when I looked at this business model and I tore it apart and realized how much of a fair business model it actually is, to me, it was like, oh my goodness, this should be for the masses, not for the few. And I used to say that a lot, and people would laugh at me and they go, yeah, right, okay. But there's still the focus on finding the people who've already got a bunch of money to spend. So, you know, that's the big deal. And for me, for 25 years, I've been feeling this undercurrent that said, no, we need to be able to make business available to the masses. So isn't it interesting that it took me about 20 years, or 15 anyway, to run into NeoThink, Mark Hamilton, and all of you, where all of a sudden I started to understand why I had these feelings that I had, that it really was because I understood in my heart and in my soul that we all have the ability to be value creators. We all have the ability to build business, and that there was a huge chunk of people on the planet who were being ignored. And that was the core. And it all kind of came together in my mind in 2007 as I started reading my first manuscripts, and as I went through Mark's video training, I realized, it was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I knew in my heart, was that we all should have the opportunity to do these kinds of things. And it really, really was difficult for me to understand that everything that was already out here was not really moving in that direction. So understand that as I share this information with you, it's really, there's two main purposes for me for sharing this information. One is because I definitely want to see the network marketing industry done differently. I don't know if any of you got a chance to watch the video of what I talked about last night. I know Donald was on there live, but the video is out there. And I've really talked about the idea that from my perspective, and other people may or may not share it, I truly believe that some of the traditional marketing that's done out there, everything from the Walmart tackle to even traditional advertising that we see on TV all the time, is actually a force being put upon us to try to talk us into doing something. And if we're going to build a sea of you, if we're going to build a 12 Visions world, and what I said to Donald last night was, don't we need to model what that looks like? Don't we need to think about some of these things in a little bit different way? And that doesn't mean that if you've got a great network marketing mentor out here that you shouldn't listen to them. I know Donald has started talking to somebody in the upline in iClub Biz, and even listening to Jeff Evers. Jeff Evers is a pro. I mean, he made millions in Amway. And to me, anybody that can do that is absolutely a pro. There's no doubt about it. So, you know, they've got some very valid points. They've got some very valid ways that they do things. And so when I'm encouraging people to rethink the industry and to look at it from a little different perspective, the way that I look at it is, don't think about either this or that. Think about both this and this, and how can you integrate them? That's the bottom line. We're supposed to be integrated thinkers. And so there's no reason we can't take the best of what really is out there that has been tried and true in network marketing and combine it with some new thoughts, some new ideas in terms of how do we do something like network marketing without initiating force? How do we honor those very principles that we believe in very strongly and integrate them into how we do the world of network marketing? And it's actually very interesting to me because even some of my own personal recent experience is all tied up in this very idea. Because some of you know about the mentor that has shown up on my doorstep here recently. And while I adore him completely, in many ways, I had to laugh because I honestly forgot I had talked to him 2 years ago. And I just stumbled into the old email recently that I went back and forth with him on. And it was kind of sad in a way because somehow we had started a conversation back before my husband had his hip replaced. And it was because I had seen him post something on Facebook that talked about the ability for the body to regrow cartilage in the joints. So he happened to talk about a specific solution that was of interest to me, and that's why I reached out to him at the time. And I had these emails from him 2 years ago, and he's talking all about these products and stuff and how they actually can help to regrow cartilage. And he had this guy who works for him who, is doing so much better. He didn't have to have any additional joints replaced, et cetera, et cetera. But he couldn't hear me when I told him that I did not have that kind of money to invest. And so he was totally in that space that so many other network marketers are in of, well, you don't have the money, you're not who I'm looking for, next. And and I remember that transaction very vaguely, but I remember just feeling like, how come nobody's willing to try to help me figure out how to overcome this obstacle? And so 2 years later, it was a very different situation because this person had been challenged to learn how to listen. And that's a biggie because so many people in network marketing, and so much of the reason that so many people have been turned off by network marketers, it's because all they want to do is talk. Here's my happy, shiny product, and you want it. You got to have it. And people really don't appreciate that a lot. A lot of it starts to feel like force. It feels like somebody's trying to initiate force against you. And this second go around, this person came to me and said, I want to hear your story. And I was blown away. I'm like, what? Who in the world ever wants to hear my story? And he admitted that it was a struggle. He admitted that it was a struggle for him to listen to my story. But he did for 2 hours. And as a result, he was really, really impressed when he learned about all the things I was doing and when he understood that I had been committed to trying to work on creating systems to help all the people become rich, including the poor. And all of a sudden it became a conversation about how can I help you to build the income that allows you to do that, and how do I help you to be able to get your husband feeling better so he doesn't have any more joints replaced. So the second time around was a completely different conversation. And I don't think it was me that was a whole lot different. It was him. And there's probably a lot of reasons for that. And I happen to believe there's a lot of people who are starting to wake up and become more conscious about how they need to be helping on the planet in general, which is why I'm out here talking about living your song. But I just want you to understand the framework that I have built this within, because we have the ability to lead the charge in doing some things a little bit differently. So that's part A for why this course is so important to me. But part B, which is more related to all of you, is because I see these tools as a way of us putting our own personal brands out there that are related to our beliefs and our passions that have to do with Neothink and 12 Visions World and the Prime Law and all of those kinds of things. So that's what I'm hoping to bring together here and help everybody to be able to maybe develop a little bit of a different mindset, maybe be able to think just a little bit differently about the network marketing industry and understand this is what my mentor's doing for me now, is helping me to shift from that product focus that I always had, which again, it's not a bad thing. If you see somebody out there in social media who's got a specific pain and you've got health-related products to help that pain, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to them related to that product. And some of you do that very well. I did something on Facebook the other day that we'll talk more about in another class, but I ended up with like 50 responses to something on Facebook, and half of them say they want to do more traveling. So those are people that I can go back to and say, if you're really into traveling, do you have any interest in learning how you can save some money and make some money when you're traveling? You know, there's nothing wrong with maintaining some of that product focus. But what I'm shifting to, and what I'm helping other people to shift to, is how do you work on building the team so that you now have a funding tool that helps us all to be able to have the cash flow that we need to do these very big visions that we have. Because we all have very big visions, or at least most of us. And it's kind of funny because in my little experiment the other day, there were literally 4 or 5 people who said they have a vision of having an RV and traveling around the country helping people build business. So that's mine and Dawn's vision. So we know there's other people with a similar vision, and shouldn't we be partnering with them? Shouldn't they become part of a team somewhere where they're helping us and we're helping them simultaneously to build funds and be able to go do that? We all know the time is coming, and it may be sooner rather than later at this point in time, where you know, we could have an economic crash out here. And it may be that people need to quickly learn how to become value creators just to be able to be self-sustaining. So those are all the things to think about as we go forward with this, and just understand we have the ability to create a movement, very literally, and where we're helping other people to see some things differently, do some things differently, while putting out our own personal brand related to who and what we are, related to NeoThink and 12 Vision. And I encourage everybody to understand that it's a very powerful thing that we can do. And I always like to, in starting off with any of these classes, I always like to just remind people, some of you may know where this comes from. Anybody remember hearing anything about a teachability index?
Yes.
I bet you do. And so what is it, you know, because I teach this as part of my class at Wake Tech every time too, because most people have no idea. So anybody remember what the 2 components are of a teachability index?
Who do you listen to?
You're on the right track. That's where it comes from. But if somebody's teachable, they got to be willing to do 2 main things. What are they?
Your willingness to learn.
That's one of them. Good job.
Yeah, be trainable, listen, be mentored.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the bigger one, a lot of people forget about, and it's the big C word. Anybody know what that would be?
Is that a commitment?
It involves commitment. Commitment to do another big C word.
Boy, it's been so long since I've really had to think about that. Teaching, training, balance, you know.
Yeah, that's right. It's where it all comes from. And
Right.
and the other really important component is the willingness to change.
The willingness to what? I'm sorry, someone.
Change.
Yes.
Because that's the kicker, is so many of us are willing to sit and learn, but if we're not willing to change, if we're not willing to apply something of what we learn, then, you know, the kicker is you could be a 10 on the first scale in terms of, I'm willing to learn, I'm here, I'm willing to dedicate some time for 4 Saturdays. Well, what else do I have to do to tell you I'm willing to learn? But if your willingness to change or to take action in a new direction is a 0, then your 10 times 0 is 0. you are zero teachable. So keep that in mind, because that is the hardest part for most of us to maintain and remember as we're going forward with all of this. So anyhow, I definitely, and this is related to the question I put out on Facebook the other day, is just trying to get a sense of, and we all know about some of this because it's all about your Friday night essence, and you know, are you happy with your life? Are you happy with your work? And then the really, really important question, if money wasn't a consideration, if you had the closet full of money and you knew you couldn't fail at whatever it is you wanted to be doing, what would you be doing right now? And what's stopping you? The good news is more and more of us are finding ways to do some of these things, and that's a really good thing. But when I put this question out on Facebook the other day, it was interesting. There was at least 15 people who didn't even try to answer the question. They just liked it and moved on. There were some who answered the question, but it was just a one-word answer. You know, somebody say travel, somebody say visit family. So, you know, you get these really short, not thought out answers, and you start to realize just how many people out here really are not clearly hooked into what it is they're really, what's their purpose, what's their passion, what's their mission. And so this is where I'm trying to help people start. Because, again, I'll go back to my experiences in the network marketing industry. To me, there's really one reason that so many people drop out of the industry. One reason, and that's because they have not identified their deep motivational root. They have not identified their why for doing it. And if I go back to what I saw in Amway, you know, too many of the people there were there because they wanted a bigger house and a different car and a boat and, you know, all of these different things, which again, I have no problem with all of these things. I'd like to have some nice things like that again too someday. But to make that the sole focus is a mistake, because network marketing requires every bit as much work as any job you could ever take on. And most people will decide it's easier to get a second job. But if they've got a deep motivational root that they've identified as their reason of why they want to be engaged in this, that they know there's something they need to do, that they need to build, and here's the real keywords, the automatic money. Mr. Stedman's getting pretty good with those words. I see him flash those around Facebook quite a lot lately. A lot of people talk about passive income, residual income. A lot of people don't even know what those terms mean. But at least if we can talk about automatic money, you can get somebody's attention. Like, what do you mean automatic money? I was teaching a class last week on Find Your Sum, and it was a group of low-income people. And I used my Legal Shield as an example. I said, you know, I've been with Legal Shield for 15 years. And I said, I haven't even really worked it very much for the last 10. I said, but guess what? I said, every month they drop a check of about $300 into my checking account, even though I haven't done a flipping thing for them all month. And one guy says, can I marry you? I want some of that. So I cracked up at that. But, you know, that's the whole thing. People understand if you've got ways that you've got some automatic money dropping in, that's a powerful thing. And the more of it we can build, the more of it we can gather and be able to have that money coming in on a continual basis, then we are able to create funding that will allow us to be out here living in our Friday night essence, doing our passion, our purpose, our mission, whatever all of that looks like. And hey, sometimes we've got a whole integrated system we're out here trying to put together. But it really would be helpful to have more funds doing it. So that's what I'm trying to help more people understand is don't look at network marketing as just a place that you're going to sell products. Look at it from the perspective of how can it help you live what you're really here to do. That's huge. And I always ask people to think about these things as well. You know, would you agree? This country and the world in general are going through some tough times right now. Most problems are not solved by everyone doing the same thing they've always done. That's huge. And do you have some incredible skills, talents, and knowledge that you're not utilizing right now? So what if there's something that you love doing that could be contributing to a solution out here? The people on this meeting right now know that we're not going to get solutions out of Washington, D.C. We know that a lot of our local governments are not really providing solutions. So we have to be thinking about how do we create solutions, and can we generate income in doing it as well? I have no doubt that these low-income folks I'm working with are going to get to a place of starting to generate income as we work with them. But it's going to take a little effort on the front end because some of them are really kind of behind in their learning, but some of them actually have brilliant business minds. And that's been a beautiful thing that we found. In fact, I think that was part of what kind of got our current mentor excited, was when I was talking about the formerly incarcerated community and how we're working with them. And some of the most brilliant business minds in the world are right there. And nobody's tapping them. Nobody is getting them engaged. And do you know that in one of my classes that I taught with them, I had a young man that I was describing the network marketing business model, and he was jumping up and down in his seat, and I was laughing. I said, why are you so excited about what I'm talking about? He says, because you're the first person telling me that I can use my skills legally. I said, what? I said, talk to me. And he says, you're talking about this network marketing thing. He said, this is for real, right? I said, oh yeah, it's totally for real. And he says, but that's what I did in the streets. I built networks. I know how to do what you're talking about, and I'm darn good at it. He said, so why is nobody teaching me this? I said, I am. He said, why is nobody else teaching us this? I said, well, that might be a conversation for another time. But he even went as far as to kind of dissect what I was talking about in network marketing, and he explained to me how people in the streets, he had different names and different terminology, but he was matching it up. You call it this, I call it this. You call it this, I call it this. So I want you to know there's an incredibly intelligent, untapped resource out there that is just itching to be able to learn there's a legal way to use the skill sets that they got put in prison for. And that is a powerful thing to know. Because if you read the Miss Annabelle story, isn't that what Rico did? He put people to work. Now, of course, there was definitely a difference between people who were violent offenders and nonviolent offenders. We know there's too many nonviolent offenders that have been put in prison. So those folks are itching for an opportunity to use their natural skills and talents. Think about that as you're going forward and as you meet other people out here. So that's what we're talking about with this whole process, this whole idea is, let's all be engaged in more fully utilizing our natural skills and talents and helping other people to do it. Having work that has meaning to you and allows you to make a difference, that's where we all become extremely happy. I love one of the things I saw Mark wrote in one of our more recent books, where he said, the brain finds happiness when it's creating value. And that's what we got to have more people doing, is they've got to be creating value. They've got to be finding happiness in doing that. And you get paid to have fun every day. I know Mr. had all kinds of fun when you get that first iClub check. I don't know what I'm getting these days, but and I was excited to see that that Jeff actually finally launched the new compensation plan. I don't know about any of you, but I see I'm now getting paid on 5 levels. Before, I was only getting paid on 3. So now I'm getting paid deeper into the organization, and you guys should be too. So that is an exciting thing to see, that we now have the ability to get paid deeper down And especially given that Henry found I guess it was Mark Stevens who brought on board Joe Shoup, and now Joe is, talking to a whole group of 30,000 distributors and encouraging them to use iWebAtool. That means you'll be able to get paid a little further down in the organization now, the way that Jeff has it set up, and that's really great. So anyhow, that's the whole idea of what we're trying to get more people to do, is to really take this industry and engage it in exactly what we know that we can do in the whole NeoThink 12 Visions world. So, I'm trying to help people through this process, get clarity on who you wish to serve. For me, I'm definitely serving in the low-income communities because somebody's got to give them stepping stones. But other people have other places they feel called to serve. And we'll talk more about that in a minute or two. And then put together some details on who do you wish to serve and how? What do you want to provide to some other people? Learn to communicate your cause, your desire, your purpose, your passion, your FNE in a way that others will relate to, that they'll understand and they'll support. And then you can, again, look at your network marketing program, and it's okay if you've got more than one, by the way, because when you start looking at network marketing as a way to raise funds and create automatic money that allows you to do whatever it is you're here dancing on the planet to do, it's not as important that you're just focused on one product or one company. I mean, I have 3 major companies that I am promoting. And people go, well, how can you do that? Well, it's really simple, because I'm really not promoting any of them unless I find somebody with a problem. Somebody says, I want to travel more. Okay, I have a solution for that. Here's how you can travel for less money. Here's how you can make money every time you do travel. So if somebody gives me something specific like that, or somebody says, I'm really having trouble sleeping, I'm not feeling very well, well, great. I can reach into my toolbox, and I've got products, and now I have a training, I have a service I can provide that helps people sleep better. So I can reach into the toolbox when somebody gives me a specific problem. But if they're not giving you a specific problem, understand the reason for business is to solve problems. You can still go out there and be able to work on sharing your vision, sharing what it is that you're here in the world to do, and see who resonates with that vision. Now you're selling your vision, you're selling your cause, and all you're doing is looking for other people who have a similar vision or a similar cause. Like I said, with that one question I put on Facebook the other day, I found at least 4 people with a similar vision as mine and Don's. And I know there's more than that out there. But those are people that I'm going to take the time to reach out to and see if I can have a cup of coffee with them. I want to hear their story. I want to know why they're passionate about doing what they're wanting to do. Because those are people who should become part of the team, part of the tribe. So if you're marketing your vision and you're looking for other people who are part of your tribe, part of your, Mark called us all apprentices, that we all had something in our soul, in our DNA that resonated with what he was bringing to the table. There's other people out here, and we will find them. But we've got to be able to let them know who we are and what we're about. And that's how you start to attract them. And that's how you start to bring people to the table without force. People responded very voluntarily to my Facebook question. And those are people now to talk to. And not slam them over the head with a business opportunity, but to try to understand more about what it is they want, and then find out if they're open to talking about a potential solution. There is no force in that. And it is totally different than the way the industry has been done previously. Is any of this making sense, or am I just babbling?
It's making sense, Shan. It's making sense.
All right. Good, good, good. So I did email you, and Henry, I didn't email you because, again, I guess I didn't know you were going to be here today, but I will email you as soon as I get off here. there is a worksheet that I absolutely beg people to spend time with if you haven't yet. It's a worthwhile exercise, and really it's called Discovering Who I Am. And it's really 4 questions that will help you to identify more specifically at least the Friday night essence that you're focused in now in this part of your life, more than anything. Because too many people get wrapped around the axle with that concept, and oh my God, they think they just, you know, they're never going to figure out what their FNE is or what their passion or their purpose is. And really, I believe it's a lot more simple than what most of us think. Yes, it's thought-provoking and it can be difficult when you take that first question I threw out there and said, hey, if you had a closet full of money, you know, what would you be doing with your time? So many adults can't answer that question because they ain't had the closet full of money, so they don't think there's any reason to stop and think about, what am I really here to do? What really jazzes me? What gets me excited? Where is my personal motivation that can't be stopped? Very few adults have allowed themselves or given themselves permission to think about those things. So that can be a tough one for some people, but it's interesting because even with the question I put out the other day, some people gave me these real short, trite answers. I went back and asked more questions. You know, it was like if somebody said helping others. I went back and said, how would you help? And then I'd get a little more information. And some people would say, well, you know, somebody mentioned they wanted to be in some kind of ministry. Really? Who would you minister to? So sometimes it's just about getting better at interviewing people, asking them the questions, pulling the information out of them, because it's there a lot of times, but we got to help them recognize it and identify with it. And it was funny. I remember one gal that actually had approached me years ago thinking that she wanted me to coach her. She's actually like I want to say she's a school counselor of some sort. I'm not sure it's a guidance counselor. It might be. She might be a specialized teacher of some sort. But she came to me several years ago, and every time I'd say, well, would you like to meet? Oh, I've got this going on. I've got that going on. I'm too busy. I can't do this right now. It's like, okay, but you're the one who came to me telling me that you wanted something more. So doesn't it just figure she'd be one of the ones who showed up in my post on Facebook? And, you know, and she had this wonderful story about the vision of what she wanted to be doing. Was figuring it out how to do the whiteboard here. That's funny. Stop making me laugh. But she had this beautiful vision, and so I said to her, I said, well, what's stopping you from pursuing this vision or figuring out how to start working on it now? Well, I just started a new job, and I got to have my focus there, and yada, yada, yada. So that's part of what we have to be aware of too as we're interviewing and asking questions of people. If somebody's just not ready to think outside the box and figure out what their FNE is, we need to just let them be. That is part of, you can ask enough questions to see if you can rattle their cage, but then you just need to let them be. And she actually came back later and said, why did you ask that question? And I laughed and I said, that's a good question. Because I said, I'm always looking for people who are ready to make a bigger impact in the world now. And I said, I can't find them if I don't ask. So I'll be curious to see if she responds to what I put there. So it's very good. See, I don't even know how to use this thing as a whiteboard. So that's awesome. Somebody's playing. So anyhow, you know, one of the big questions that I've got a lot of people focusing on when I'm working with them, especially in the low-income communities, and this can help people to untangle their Friday night essence, at least a piece of it, at least one of them. I think some of us have multiple, and there's nothing wrong with that. But asking the question, have you sometime in your life overcome a large obstacle, a situation, or a pain that was out of the ordinary? And would you find satisfaction in helping others through something similar? That one is a huge one right now, because this is where especially the folks who are coming from a low income background and they can't quite imagine themselves starting a business. I help them to understand that, you know, if nothing more, the fact that you're sitting here, you're standing up, you've been through some very big difficulties, but you're here learning and you're open to the idea of trying to figure out if you could start a business, that means you have a story to tell. And sometimes that story, or maybe more than one story that we have, becomes a part of what we need to be communicating out here as part of our personal brand. I've got a lot of different directions I can go, and it really depends on what target market that I'm talking to in terms of what are some of the things I'm going to talk about. But you can. I mean, for me right now, I've got a video I put out there recently that talks about how part of our passion is to help eliminate poverty, or at least to eliminate the man-made reasons that it exists and give more people the opportunity to be able to start to understand that they could possibly become self-sustaining. And in that, I tell our story about ending up in the poverty trap of, you know, losing everything and ending up in the system where we had to kind of fight our way out of that. So when you know that there's a group that you want to target, that you want to try to bring towards you, it's okay to tell about your pain, your difficulty, and how you overcame it, because people resonate with that. That's one of the most powerful things that we can use to attract people, whether we're attracting them to a Neothink movement or whether we're attracting them to whatever we're doing as a network marketing business. Whatever it is you want to be doing to make a big difference out here in the world. If you can share some of your personal story as you're targeting a particular audience, now you're allowing people to have hope. And if we need something, one thing on the planet more than anything else right now, it's hope. Hope is a powerful drawing card. It is a powerful attractor. And so as part of this whole class and this whole exercise of figuring out how we might modify just a little bit how we do network marketing and how we integrate our FNE, just consider, are there stories in your life that you're willing to share with others? Because I tell you, when I'm working in the low-income communities and I share that we went through the financial crash, they start to listen to us differently. They understand that we've been in some of where they have been, and you know, we're credible in their mind at that point because we understand them. So as you go through some of this, and this is on that worksheet, that's one of the questions is, what have you been through in your life? What difficulty have you overcome that you can be able to share with other people? And don't be afraid to tell some of your stories. It's powerful, and more people are starting to catch on that it's a way to build trust with people as well. Because to do business with you, they've got to know you, they got to like you, they got to trust you. Trust oftentimes can be built by just allowing ourselves to be a little bit vulnerable, to share something that maybe people didn't know about us. Any thoughts on that one? That tends to be kind of a biggie for a lot of people. What I have some of the low income folks doing now is I'm encouraging them to write about some of these things that they've come through, because we know everybody's a genius. Well, guess what? They're not only genius, but they're experts in the challenges that they've come through. They have information to share that nobody else knows because they're the ones who went through it. So we've got some people in the mental health counseling firm that I'm working with right now who are on CreateSpace, starting to put together some books. It's an awesome thing. And it's also a fairly simple way to start doing some business activity that's related to that song within you, that FNE. So of course, we always talk about what kind of hobbies and projects do you work in outside of normal work hours, and that doesn't mean watching football or going to your kid's dance recital. We're looking for, are there things that you've done that, you know, you just love working in your hands, you love the creation process. We know Jill gets into all kinds of creation processes, We know Donald's out there creating clean windows every day, and God only knows what else. You know, so a lot of things that we enjoy doing in the creation process, those are definitely things that can be part of our song as well. And then the last one that I really encourage people to think about, because again, if you're going to share something about a personal brand, about who you are, if there's something that can really make you feel angry or really make you feel sad when you think about it, and I know we try to stay more on the positive side in NeoThink and other types of training and motivation that we go through, but just being aware of these things that can really punch an emotional button in you, they are oftentimes directly pointing at where your passion and where your purpose is. I know for me that one of the most emotional moments that I remember in my recent history was when I saw all the coverage of Hurricane Katrina. We're going back to Katrina in New Orleans. And the fact that there were so many low-income people who were trapped in the convention center in New Orleans. They were trapped in the Superdome. And they were all just sitting there looking so hopeless and so helpless. And I just remember that day. And of course, this was before I even had picked up a NeoThink book, because this was in the 90s. I remember standing there that day and crying my eyes out and saying, oh my God, these people have been trained by the government to think they can't do anything but wait for the government to save them. I knew that then, and I did. Every time I saw a news report about Hurricane Katrina and all these people trapped there, that was what I cried about. So I knew this was where my passion was, that I had to be engaged in helping to find stepping stones out of the poverty trap for low-income people, because it just makes me angry as all get out when I think about the fact that the government has trained them to be that way. So think about that, and don't be afraid to think about, where is your emotion sometimes with some things? Is there something that you get very upset about or whatever that you can be able to help people understand where your passion and your motivation and your Friday night essence comes from? If there's anything out here right now that I can think of off the top of my head that keeps me motivated to continue to build these network marketing teams, it is that picture of Katrina. That is what does it for me. And if you haven't truly found, and I know most of the people on this call probably have, but if you haven't truly found something that creates that deep motivational root inside of you that keeps you going, then it's a lot harder to keep going in these things that we're talking about. So I'm going to take a breath for a second and just ask you questions, comments, any thoughts?
Oh. Yeah, I think we're on the right path, Shan. That's definitely what I see. We just have to stay focused and learn the technology that's available. iWebitool.
Absolutely. And learning, you know, where the power is in using it. I mean, again, we're going to use iWebitool, one of the travel sites, and go back to some of those people who traveling is all they want to talk about, and let them know that that's something we can do. But at the same time, we can, you know, we have the editable ones where you can create your own video, be able to put your own brand out there, tell people who you are, tell something about your story, and tell them why you're doing what you're doing. That becomes part of the ability to attract. And instead of forcing our marketing on people, now you're attracting people who have a similar passion as yours. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
I was listening and I unmuted myself at the time that Donald spoke up, so I remuted myself. But You know, I like the way you're taking this, Cheyenne. What I realize is you're using catchphrases all over the place that should help people see it at a deeper level. What was it that Mark Hamilton was trying to show us was, look, you're creators. You have this power. You possess this great wealth within you to become more than a job, to become a business of your own, the highest use of conscious life. And but you're right, the why has to be big enough. But the why, what I'm studying right now, and I just have to throw it out, is that I can have my why, and it's huge, and it's been there since I was very, very young, and definitely since second grade. But if I don't have something right now that's drawing me, which was the things that the Amway was trying to tell my husband back in the 80s, to have that achieve aim, okay?
Yes.
If if I don't have anything I want today, I'm not going to be drawn to make money.
Right.
And that's where I've been. I have to say that, because when you've been in business and you've had the force of government on your business and greedy landlords and that, you lose your drive to make money because it's taken from you. So I personally think the way you're going about this is good, but we have to have something little enough that we know we can get it, but big enough to draw us. And I think that's where I have found in the last month that matters the most to me, and especially after studying Jeff, the creator, along with a few others perhaps, but Jeff, the great self-leader within iWebAtool, iClub Biz. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Well, thank you. And I agree. And one of the worksheets that I will share next week is actually a goal setting process that I designed a number of years ago, because that's the other challenge. And that's where I take a lot of the people that I teach out here in the community is we got to chunk things down a little bit, because so many of us have these huge visions that I don't believe we're supposed to be putting them together by ourselves. We're supposed to be collaborating, and that's part of the power of iWebAtool, is that we can use it to go out there and find more. I mean, quite honestly, there's more Mark's apprentices out there that we haven't found. And, you know, so we can use iWebAtool as an attraction tool to bring more of those people to the table and be able to collaborate on these huge visions that we've got. But we also have the ability to chunk it down and say, okay, but what piece of this vision can I do today? What piece of this vision can I get started on now? Because that's part of it is, the number of people that I run into who say, and I had this in the class I was teaching downtown just now, you know, they'll say, well, I got this great book in my head, but I don't have any money to be able to get it published. I'm like, excuse me. Did you not know that you can publish a book and have it cost you zero money? And they're like, what? You know, and so that's the thing is so many of us get caught up in the I'll do it when. And it's like, no. How can you start taking the baby steps now and starting to get some things happening now? And that's why I love iClub so much, is because it doesn't have a bar that's too high to be able to get over in terms of starting to learn how to, you know, you can get engaged for $5 if you have only $5. So you can get engaged and start selling product as a way to put money in your account to be able to buy product. So, you know, it's like, okay, so if you really would like to be using one of these health-related products, but you don't have money for health-related products, hallelujah, $5, you can be in here, you can work on selling some product, and now you can order product because you've got cash in your account. So those are that's the whole idea, is the baby steps and the stepping stones, and just being able to use your mini days every week, but at the same time, use kind of a planner to say, okay, I'm going to test out to see what's ready to rock and roll here this week, because sometimes we still have to learn a few more things before something's really, boom, ready to move. And if you can be able to utilize utilize your planning as a way to say, okay, well, I'm going to test out this right now, and I'm going to test out this right now. And if doors start opening for me in this direction, I'm going to run. And now I know how to organize my mini days for the week. But if I test out this over here and everybody's telling me no, or people are slamming doors in my face, maybe I'm not going to do that this week.
Well, those are just physical movements with the mentally integrating responsibilities within your many-day planner.
Exactly. I mean, we have to have the physical.
So, those are things that come about from power thinking and, just utilizing us as conscious beings. So
Exactly. Well, and there's one very, very well-known network marketer who also talks about activity knowledge, because again, you can sit and put together a detailed plan for the week of what you want to do, and you may have an idea of what kind of results you want to get by the end of the week. And sometimes those will work, and sometimes they don't work as well. And for me personally, when I have found I've done that kind of thing, and it's like, dang, I did not get anywhere near the results I thought I was get for the amount of activity I put out there. Then I stop and look at it and go, okay, there's something missing here. There's something I need to do differently. And maybe I need to just put this on the shelf for a bit until I figure out even what it is. So yeah, the power thinking comes into play. But that's part of the process, is to just be able to stop and look at the results you're getting for your activity and figure out, does this make sense to continue right now? Or is there some missing piece I haven't found yet to add to it?
And I think that's where your big C word comes into it, is change. Because too often what we're doing does not require us to step back and think and take a new action, take another street. And so when we do this, that's what this is challenging us to do, is to make a change, try a new tool. And I think for me, that's been it. I haven't stepped in to try the tool, and I'm being perfectly honest, because I can be. Is it serving me or serving anyone else unless I'm willing to try the tool? No. Exactly. No. And I believe in this company, I'm one of those that put my foot into the water, but that's all I've done. And and I do know, I've seen you do it with people that didn't have money to start a business and help them get going. And we just have to help people find their dream, which is really to live a better life. To be happy and prosper. But we have to make sure that they know what their chief aim is. See, that's what I was lacking. I didn't understand that I could still have something I wanted. It didn't have to come through the kind of business that I'd worked before. I didn't have to go to work in a business of my own again. I could go try somebody else's just to put my foot back into that water. And take a risk of making money again, other than doing it because I love to copyright, because I love to write. And so the tool can help in all of that, but I haven't been willing to change by trying it. So thanks, Shan.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And, and we all run into some of those challenges. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, I got to admit, when you decide to work with a mentor, they can shake your tree. And
that's what they're supposed to do.
That's exactly it. But it's good because, again, even in that situation, for me, it's not an either or. It's not either I'm going to do things like I know I need to do, or I'm going to do what they tell me to do. It becomes an integration process. How do I take the two and meld them together so that I'm doing both? Because quite honestly, my biggest problem for a long time, and I know that I'm not the only one who's dealt with this, I know quite a number of women here in Raleigh who've done the same thing, is sometimes you get so engaged in the whole helping of others and building a system that you're not getting paid to do, you forget to take care of yourself. And so that's been the beauty of having somebody else come in and say, no, you're going to take care of yourself, dummy. And it's like, oh, yeah. Okay, let's forget the sacrifice thing, right, Jill? So we end up.
You wonder if you're becoming altruistic to a cause, and then you realize no, because the cause is something greater than life, something larger than me, but it is for me. Exactly. So what I'm not doing is being altruistic. However, You know, where is my chief aim? Okay, that's what I just have to say to everyone is you can have a big vision and you can be part of the vision. You can take your part of it, you can work with others, or just do your part. In the Miss Annabelle story, The Super Puzzle by Mark Hamilton, each one of them did their own part. They didn't rely upon each other. They went out and they did what they were good at. And they came back together for the biggest vision, to save conscious life.
Right.
Okay? And that's all fine and well, but without a chief aim, without understanding the significance of that, something big enough but small enough but big enough to stimulate you into doing and making that change, it won't matter because the vision is way too big. But that's a lifetime thing. The vision is. And so, I mean, I know we use the word sacrifice, and I don't feel like I've really ever sacrificed myself to it. But what I know is I left myself in situations that I was more vulnerable than I needed to be. And I don't want anyone to be in those positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand. So finding a little bit more balance because, I mean, many of us are working on some very big visions, and being able to chunk it down and take a bite of an elephant at a time, which can end up being that chief aim. I mean, for me, you know, part of my chief aim that resonated with me recently was helping Don to start to feel better so that we could avoid him going through any more you know, replacement surgeries. But the other thing is we're very focused now on the idea that we're getting into an RV. And I guess right now it sounds like June might be our target. So we're working on that idea to build enough residual income that it could pay for us to be in an RV. And so that's where we're at right now on that side of things, but keeping all this other activity moving as well. So it's a challenge. There's no doubt. And of course, this whole slide is really just understanding, you know, what we're feeling is huge out here. If you're not feeling excited about something, you need to, you know, be finding something else to put your energy into. And if there's somebody who feels motivated by helping to ease other people's suffering, well, you know, that becomes a deep motivational route for some people. It's definitely one for me. So just to think about that. And of course, you know, but I already know what I want to do. Great. You may or may not currently have an idea for what you want to do and who you want to help, but you do need to look back. And this is something that I found, and I think I found this as a result of going through Mark's books, is that there was an emotional hot spot for me that was in hiding for a very long time, that I did not even really understand what it was. And it wasn't until I really started teaching my classes at Wake Tech that I started to catch on, because sometimes there's something in us, and I believe it becomes part of our subconscious programming, that has so much passion or purpose or emotion around it that if you're ignoring it, you can all of a sudden be blocking your ability to produce cash flow. And I'll tell you exactly what we ended up seeing and what I was able to come to this conclusion about, because I had gotten this impression back in about 2000 when I was standing in front of a group of social workers and talking to them about the concept of Find Your Song. And I was really uncomfortable standing there in front of those social workers, because it was really one of the first times I really was coming face to face with the idea of possibly helping in the low-income communities. And I was scared silly. But while I was standing there, I had this powerful deja vu kind of feeling that it was like, oh my God, for some reason I'm supposed to be here, but man, I don't want to be here. And it was shortly after that that I really started to kind of run from the idea of working in that community and helping in that community. And I truly believe that my subconscious had such a programming within it to work in that community, but I was afraid of it. And I truly believe that's part of what triggered me and Don to go through the financial difficulties that we went through. It's like, yeah, well, if you're going to run from it, you can become part of it. Now see how you run from it. And I truly believe we sometimes create these learning experiences for ourselves. But I kept asking myself, where did this program come from? I don't get it. How did my subconscious put this kind of puzzle together? And one day when I was teaching my class, it hit me. And I started to get tears in my eyes. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. I know where it came from. And it really had to do with my mom. My mom worked for state government for 25 years. And I spent 18 years of my life listening to her talk about all the things that were wrong in government. She would tell me about, because she worked, and this is funny too, I mean, all the places she worked. She worked in the prison system. She worked in the mental health hospital. She worked in the state treasurer's office. She worked for the welfare office, Office of Economic Opportunity. She worked in all of these places that definitely have a connection to things that we've read about in the Miss Annabelle story. So I had internalized all of that learning from her for 18 years. And some part of me made a decision that I wasn't even aware of, that I needed to be involved in helping people to escape that system that wasn't working. So when I avoided it, it crashed in around me and said, no, you made, some part of you has made this commitment, you're going to learn. So I encourage people to just know that there can be some emotional hotspots hidden in your subconscious mind that if you haven't uncovered it, it's a good idea to at least be asking yourself some questions to see if there's anything there. Because I think there's a lot of people who have a, quote, song in their heart, and this was where mine was, that they don't even know it's there, and it'll trip you up. You can become self-sabotaging if you've got something there that you're not paying attention to. I did it, I know, and I'm just putting that out there for people to be aware of. All right, so getting ready to wind this thing down here today, but I did want to make mention of this too, because this directly relates to Sea of You. It relates to the whole idea of the 12 Visions world. We know that that whole arena of government that has been set up to provide social services, we know that is not the healthiest way for us to be living on the planet. We know that's not the best for us as human beings. And so there are a lot of nonprofits out here who are still serving that whole purpose. And a lot of them end up closing their doors. So it doesn't mean that we don't need services out here to help the people who have been in some form of oppression, because I do believe man-made poverty is oppression. It doesn't mean that they don't need a hand up to be able to step up those baby steps and those stairs to climb out of the poverty trap. We just need it to be done differently than it's done in the past. And so, I meet people every day who say, oh, I want to start a nonprofit. I say, why? Well, because I need grant money to be able to do this and this and this. And I say, really? Seriously? I said, do you know how many small nonprofits are struggling because they can't get grant money at all? Because there's so much competition, and because a lot of it's controlled by politicians. And if you know somebody, you've got somebody in your back pocket, well then okay, maybe you'll do just fine with a nonprofit. But if you don't, donations are down, grants are down, and there's a lot of competition for the ones that are there. So I'm trying to also incorporate into this whole live your song idea, into this whole, network marketing is a good thing, not a bad thing kind of concept, is learn how to do these services in the community. This is exactly what Don and I are doing, is learn how to do services in the community using a for-profit business model. It's called social entrepreneurship, and it's totally in alignment with the 12 Visions world that we're envisioning. So instead of nonprofits going out here and begging for the money and for the handouts, it's about creating, with the existing nonprofits, we can create nonprofit for-profit hybrids. It was done by Ben and Jerry's many years ago. They did an extremely good job of it. You can create what's called a benefit corporation, a B corporation. It's a social enterprise, for-profit business with a social mission. And it's an extremely powerful kind of thing. So with this picture, this was what Ben and Jerry's set up. There was a nonprofit, there was a charity of some sort. They set them up to own a Ben and Jerry's franchise, where the clients from the nonprofit could go to work in the franchise, and the profits of the franchise went back over here to run the organization. This is the model that I absolutely, in my heart, know has to be created to be in alignment with our 12 Visions world. So now you're talking about helping people with that whole self-sustainability piece and using profits from real business to help provide the services that create the self-sustainability. That is huge, and very few people understand this or understand the power of what it is and how this needs to be done. What I want you to understand is this is very much the same model that we're working with right here, right now. I'm working with nonprofits who are starting to create this. But instead of having to have a franchise, which is a very expensive business model in a lot of cases, we're using network marketing businesses, which you can get involved with for $5. So we can still take a nonprofit. That's exactly what we're doing downtown. And we can work with those clients, and we can teach them value creation skills, and we can teach them sales and marketing by getting them engaged with a mentor in a network marketing program. Get them so they're starting to create some income and learning about good sales, good marketing, honest, ethical business. And as they gain those skills, now they have the knowledge base to start applying those skills to whatever form of business they want to create. So we just have taken Mark's apprenticeship model and injected it into the network marketing industry and said, we're going to give you hands-on ways to learn how to build business and help you create some income. Right now, iClub Biz is my favorite place to go. But for people who want to try to build money faster, you know, I've got 2 other programs that are extremely good programs that we can do that too. But for stepping stones, iClub fits into this in a beautiful way. Instead of an ice cream franchise, it's iClubBiz.com. So just understand that that is very powerful, and that is where we're going. So the self-sustaining social enterprise needs to take the place of the nonprofit of today. And just, you know, you can have a social enterprise providing service, which is what Don and I are doing with Triangle Solutions Alliance and We Care Partnerships. Clients go to work working with business mentors, and they learn their sales and marketing, various products and services, and the profits from that go back into the social enterprise, and you create a self-sustaining business model. This is huge, and again, you live your song in the middle of this. You understand that this is how we can take away all of those social programs that are out there right now that don't work very well, and be able to substitute it with some things that really can. And you start to understand this is how we can actualize the 12 Visions world, the Sea of You, whatever it is you want to call it. I think that's the last one for today. Yep.
Yes.
Sing your song. So that's that.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
No, except for my phone's about to die.
Yeah, you got to be charged up pretty good for 90 minutes, right? So I absolutely encourage you guys to spend some time with that worksheet I sent you. And again, Henry, when I'm done here, I will send that to you as well. And bring that information with you next week. And we'll be talking about it.
All righty. Thank you, Shan.
Woo! That was a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope it's something that makes sense to everybody, because yeah,